It was supposed to be a fresh start for the Thomas family. After moving from a bustling city to the quiet countryside, they found an old, sprawling Victorian house that was everything they'd dreamed of: creaky, charming, and full of character. But not long after settling in, strange things began to happen. At first, it was subtle. John, the father, would swear he'd left his keys on the kitchen counter, only to find them mysteriously at the bottom of a drawer. Laura, his wife, began hearing soft, eerie whispers in the hallways at night, always just out of reach. And the children, Timmy and Sarah, started waking up from nightmares, saying they felt like someone was watching them while they slept. The oddities quickly grew more intense. One night, as Laura was washing dishes, the faucet suddenly blasted scalding hot water, burning her hand so badly she had to pull away with a scream. Shadows began creeping along the walls, moving in unnatural patterns that seemed to follow them from room to room. The once cozy house grew cold, even in the height of summer, and the smell of decay started seeping from the basement. Without warning, a dark energy seemed to settle over the family. John and Laura, usually close and supportive, began having violent arguments over trivial matters. Timmy and Sarah, too, started turning on each other, each accusing the other of stealing or lying. The tension grew thick, and the house itself seemed to feed on it, amplifying their anger. Soon, they weren't just arguing. They were throwing things, shouting, and slamming doors with a rage none of them recognized. And then came the poltergeist activity. Doors would slam shut on their own, cutting off any attempt to escape from the growing terror. Objects flew off shelves, shattering as if some unseen force was taking out its anger on them. Once, Laura found a butcher knife buried in the floor at her feet, as if something had hurled it from the kitchen. The final straw came when John woke one night to find Sarah standing at the foot of his bed, eyes glazed, whispering in a language he couldn't understand. In a panic, he called out to Laura, who found Timmy in the hall, holding an old, battered Ouija board. As they stared at their children, they realized this was no ordinary haunting. It was something darker, something that felt evil. Desperate, they reached out to a local channeler, a woman named Celeste who was known for dealing with malevolent spirits. When she arrived, she immediately sensed the darkness swirling around them. Her face grew pale as she scanned the house, finally gathering the family in the parlor. "You've invited something into this house," she whispered, her voice heavy with dread. "A demon. It's feeding on your anger and fear." As she set up candles and protective herbs, Celeste explained that the children, unknowingly, had been playing with the Ouija board they'd found buried in an old trunk in the attic, summoning something ancient and sinister. The demon had twisted their emotions, using the family's own bond to turn them against each other. In a solemn voice, Celeste began her ritual, chanting incantations while the family huddled together, feeling the walls vibrate with an unseen fury. Shadows twisted and writhed, filling the air with the acrid scent of sulfur. Objects started flying around the room, and the demon screeched, furious at being forced out of its new home. With a final, deafening scream, a dark mist lifted from the house and dissolved, leaving behind a heavy silence. The tension was gone. The air was warm again, the shadows gone. The Thomas family, shaken but together, knew they would never speak of what happened in that house. As they prepared to leave, Timmy whispered to Sarah, "I'm sorry," and she nodded, clinging to his hand. They would never play with a Ouija board again.